not bark. Greetings, and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me online at sorcerersguild.com. Today, we're going to be going over, well, why I haven't. Oh, we're going to bump things down and knock things over. First thing we're going to do, apparently. Okay. So, fix this real quick. There we are. Probably got to find a more secure way to do that. Anyways, here we are. It's Sunday. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of time to show up. Probably not quite used to me being actually doing this. I've been saying we was going to do it. We did it the one time, but we are going to keep doing this live on Sundays. Last week I had actually driven halfway across the state on Sunday, so that's why we hadn't done it yet. But we'll do it today. And continuing, let me just copy this link, post it over onto Facebook as well. Let's see, post it here. Oh, that didn't work. How do I do that? There's got to be a way. Let's see. Click on that. Does that take me to? Nope. Okay. So, how do I? Okay. Well, let's see. Is there a way to share this? Okay. Well, oh, right here. Still very new to this whole thing. There we go. Video link. And we'll go put that in a couple of. Go put that on a couple places real quick. Give everybody a little bit of time to show up before we start reading. Okay, so there we go. We'll also put it in the guild and in soup. Okay, so just a minute. And then in soup. There we go. Oh, awesome. I seen your comment, but I was distracted on still posting. So thank you, Just Me, for posting that. Okay, we'll give everyone a few more minutes before we actually get started. Here's and let's see. Like I said, I didn't do one last week because I had driven off all the way across the state down to Wellington. It's about 150 miles from here or so, and I spent the week working on some renovation projects that came up after charging the cash cow, and I'll probably be doing that from time to time. So we may get some videos from out there, hopefully. It's down in the east central desert part of the state, so there's a lot of petroglyphs and Indian ruins and stuff down there. Hopefully, I will be getting some videos of that. We'll talk about some of the cool stuff down there throughout the rest of the summer, because I should be down there about once a month. And whether I do wind up down there or not, I also want to start doing a Sorcerer Tal Gone Wild videos. No, that's not going to be me flashing or anything like that. It would be like survival videos, like how to make a shelter, and then including the magical aspects of that, like the aversion sigil, which is something I'm going to be making a video about soon. And what the aversion sigil is it's a type of ward that I use that is very effective. Effective enough that I don't feel comfortable sharing any images of it, but it's made from an F and a U, and it's to make people fuck off, to make them go away. That's why I don't share it with people, because I don't intend to. If it's someone if someone I want to share it with, I wouldn't want them to go away, now would I? So we don't actually share it, but it's the aversion sigil, and we will discuss how to do that with the video. But basically, the aversion sigil, since I brought it up, is you take an F and a U, put them on top of each other, however you think they should be. 'Cause like I said, I'm not going to share that image, and then put it out, place it on the area that you want people to avoid. I've also used it projecting it out mentally as a quick sigil to make people get away from me, and it's very effective. So that's a useful bit of information here. Anyways, we're at 6 minutes. I don't want to read the next story just yet, but we will talk about it. Last time, if you were listening, I read the first my brain. I read the first poem in the book and the first story, which is the self-titled story, Anarchy's Last Stand. This is the book here. How come I can't? It's funny. I don't see. Oh, there it is. That wasn't even up before. Okay. So, anyways, this is the book. If you guys didn't see it last time, it's Anarchy's Last Stand. It's a collection of my short stories, poems, and essays. Obviously, that's not going to be the whole live, but in each one, I'm going to be reading an excerpt from there until we're finished with this one. And then we'll go from there. Because with each book in the series, there's novellas in here that are connected, and they will be continuing in a future book. And there's also, almost all the short stories in here are in some way going to be connected into the full story over time. But then there's also poetry, a few essays. We'll get to those. And there's actually one of the poems, at least one of the poems that has some magical significance that we will be talking about when we get to it. But for now, we're in the novellas, and I'm going to give it just a few more minutes. We've got more people showing up. A lot of you may be listening for that, so I don't want to get it going till we get into that. So, anyways, hi, silly boomer. Okay. What else? Oh, this thing that I knocked over here. This is actually, of course, the squidgel. This is a new art piece that I've made for it, as well as this one here. And we have that charging through the crystal device that Grax designed. I had some videos earlier where I was talking about this. It's kind of the collective's take on radionics in a way. We have the crystal going through the copper spiral here, which generates. I guess we're going for the piezoelectricity here. This isn't something that I have the theory behind. This is one of the things that I was told to build by Grax. So basically, I had a dream where me and Grax discussed this, and this crystal and hoop are already things I possess. That's actually an interesting story that we'll get to here. We'll talk about here for just a moment before I get to this. Okay, so we've talked before about the idea of there being multiple realities, and we exist. Many of us exist within these these many different realities. Hi, Nightwind Fae. That took me a second. I get it. Okay, so what happened was I bought this crystal stand. And actually, there's a video that earlier in the series, one of my first videos, it says fire scrying practice, and that's what I bought this stand for originally. I actually got it at a thrift store for like $1, and it was this really cool crystal candle holder with a big hole in at the top, and I was going to use it for fire scrying. Well, the moment I bought it, apparently, at least according to my dreams, I did this. I bought this same object in multiple dimensions at the same time. It was a very interesting story. Oh, that's cool. We'll be doing this every Sunday. I'm going to be at some point, well, very soon here, I'll be reading some of from this. You did miss the first short story, but you can go back and listen to it. Or it's well, it's not directly connected to what's in the rest of this book. So if you really enjoy it, you might want to go back and listen to the first live feed to get that first short story if you get into the plot of those. But you won't be lost for today, is my point. Okay, so anyways, I bought this crystal stand, and that night I went to bed, and I had this dream that about all these other me's and their realities, and it like in these dreams I dreamed that I was getting tangled up into their dreams, and I had dreams from other me's, and other realities having their dream instead of my dream, and they were, I suppose, having my dream, and we actually kind of got connected, like communicating with each other in through that. And it was interesting for a moment, but it became so complicated that we all decided that in order to break that and get back into our own versions of reality, we had to break the candle. So that's why it's broken. That's why we've never had any more of the fire scrying with that, because it was really neat. I was really excited about that, but it didn't pan out. My dreams were extremely complicated for the few weeks that I had it before I decided to break it. And then things went back to normal. Okay, so anyways, we're 11 minutes in. I have had a good week, Ian. Thank you. And we had a bit of rain. Like I was saying earlier in the live, I was actually halfway across the state from where I normally am, but we had quite a bit of rain while we were working. I was actually we're renovating mobile homes, so I was tearing all the aluminum off of a motorhome, and then the next day I had to wrap it, and then the day after that we had to put up all these wood panels. So when it rained, I actually really appreciated it. It was so hot. That is hard work. Okay, so anyways, we're going to go ahead and get to this first story. The ones we've read so far is the first poem, War of Words, and the short story, Anarchy's Last Stand. Today, we'll be reading The Demon's Child, Act 1. We'll probably read Act 3. Yeah, we'll probably read Act 3. Oh, well, that's so much. Maybe we'll just read the whole... We'll see. We might just read the whole short story. Okay. It all started that day, just before everything slipped away. Falling into the dream, I saw reason, drifting on my cloud of oblivion in the starless night sky. Her voice was like the wilds, taunting my soul, luring me onwards. I saw her sitting there that day, just before everything slipped away. The Unnamed. And that's intended to be the a poem written by the Demon's Child's father, essentially. You'll probably get that as the story continues, but that's what it's about. It's raining in Vancouver and Winnipeg as well. There's been a lot of rain. It's been a very wet year. I guess it's at least they've been saying around here that it's a monsoon year, which is funny because usually we get the El Nino, which is like the daughter of this or son of the storm, baby of the storm. And that's like a spinoff from the monsoon, but now we're getting the monsoon itself. So it's been a very wet year for this desert state. Okay, The Demon's Child, Act 1. I am told my mother was a beautiful singer, though I never heard her. My father was a beast, a creature from another world. My mother used to go alone in the forest and sing to the trees. That is how my father found her. It is said that her voice was so pure, so free of fear, that his heart swelled and his body ached for her. So badly he desired this woman that he took on the shape of a mortal to seduce her. He was a demon from far, far away, her a mortal from long, long ago. Despite all this, he touched her, and she swelled with child. A demonic child in a mortal womb. This is my story. I still remember when I was born. It was spring, a new season for a new life. We were in a green meadow, My mother, weak from the birthing, shook as she held me in her arms. The scent of the new fresh earth caressed my newborn skin with the gentle breeze. My mother looked upon me with all the joy and wonder of a newfound miracle. Despite my malformity, she found me beautiful. She traced her tiny fingers across my gentle infant's face, feeling the soft cotton of a new baby's cheek. The rooting instinct made me turn to suckle on her fingertips. They slipped inside my newfound mouth. My demonic teeth severed them instantly. Screaming in pain and terror, she threw me into the brush and fled. It was then that she realized she had given birth to a monster. Strange sensations filled me then. Pleasure from the taste of the warm liquid and flesh that filled my greedy mouth, but also a stinging nettle-like reaction that pricked at my soul. My mother did not return for me. She left me lying in the weeds in the hopes that my father would return for my soul, or at the very least, that I would die. But fate could never be so kind to such an unlikely child. I lay there in that thistle patch for days. I couldn't crawl, I couldn't cry, I couldn't move. Small things crawled in the grass and all over my skin, snakes and spiders. When they slithered over my mouth, I swallowed them whole. Thusly, I survived. I learned to crawl watching the creatures that moved around me. Deer and rabbit, foxes and wolves were my teachers, and I learned by observation. Nearby, a she-wolf had lost one of her cubs. So when she found the strange, naked, crawling baby, she took him in without complaint, though she was not fool enough to suckle him. Soon I found myself living amongst them, crawling, yapping, and barking for food in our den with my newfound siblings. My new mother taught me the ways of the wild, but even a demon's child must age, and I grew quickly. Within weeks, I was larger than any other member of the pack. In 2 months, I was larger than the den, but still a child. That is when it happened. I was playing with my brothers when the alpha male of our pack attacked me. I had felt the needle-sharp stabbing aura that a demon knows as fear, but never before had I been aware of its source. His fear consumed me, driving me to a frenzy of violence. His feeble-seeming jaws could not harm my demonic flesh, but his terrified eyes stung me like burning knives. It was this fear, and not any real need for self-defense, that caused me to do what I did. By the time I understood my reaction, it was already too late. Covered in blood and fur, his flesh between my teeth, I realized my misdeed. The needle-sharp sting of fear erupted all around me now. This time it came from all sides. Even the once kind eyes of my brothers stung at me, and I fled from this my shame. I fled from this pain that stung at me. I ran as far and as fast as my child's body could carry my still awkward frame. I ran until I came to the edge of a lake. Thirst drew me quickly to its edge, but in the water I saw a beast with huge grinning teeth and snake-slit eyes. This monster had no fur but was covered in blood and sweat over a skin completely devoid of hair. That was the first time I had tasted fear for myself. I lunged quickly into the water, seeking the heart of this terrifying foe, and found myself fighting to keep my head above water. Gulping down gallons of the cold liquid with my screams, I finally managed to drag my half-drowned body from the cold water and mud. I looked again at the cold, warm water of the lake. I had never seen such a thing before. The water was so calm and tranquil that it reflected my own face back at me. I looked again at my large, gaping teeth, my yellow snake-slit eyes, my long clawed arms and tiny feet. It was then that I realized that I was a monster. Alone in the wilderness, this realization, though painful at the time, was the only thought that kept me alive during those many years that I spent alone. Act 2. I noticed again there's a large drop when I start reading these. I guess we'll get used to those that want to hear it, or, you can come back, because, I wrote it. I'm going to read it. Okay. Act 2. I awoke to the strangest of sounds and the most wonderful of sensations. The sound was a bizarre, cackling merriment, accompanied by splashing. The sensation was like the soft, warm glow of a tiny sun, beating alongside my heart. I pulled my head out from under the leaves of my makeshift den to observe the commotion. What I saw was amazing. There were creatures, just like my mother, dancing and laughing on the shores of the lake. They wore a strange sort of fur, which they removed before entering the water. I thought to myself, perhaps if I don't try to bite, they will allow me to join them. I slid closer, crawling on my belly to get a better view. Their eyes were round and bright, colored like the stars. They were beautiful. I did not believe that they would use the strange stabbing power to hurt me. When I emerged from hiding, their fear hit me like a swarm of angry wasps. The people fled, screaming and yelling, then ran off in several different directions, leaving their furs beside the lake. I could not understand their fear. The far more beautiful, our features were almost the same. Some even had the horns and furry legs of my mother. Why did they fear me? I did not have the answer, but I knew it to be true. I was alone because of fear. I knew I could never be part of them. I knew that every time I drew near, I would feel the sting, but in my loneliness and young age, I could not resist them. I began to follow their scent. Slowly, I crept towards their camp. Each day, I would come a little closer, but I dared not go too near, so I circled it constantly. Soon, not even a single day would pass that I did not at least catch a glimpse of one of these strange creatures. When I came closest to their village, it was at night. My courage had grown at approaching them, and I trusted the darkness to hide my movements in the underbrush beside their village. They huddled close together as the nights grew colder. Standing in the center, one man was rubbing two sticks together, while a second blew on the area where the sticks interconnected. Then something happened that I would have never imagined. Something leapt forth from the wood. A strange, bright orange glow seemed to come to life from the piles of sticks that people had gathered. It was the same color as the sun. This small sun that they had conjured to earth fascinated me. I slipped closer through the trees. By climbing up and through the branches, I managed to get within feet of the nearest forms. I was so near I could feel the heat from their tiny sun. I stayed there a long time, studying their faces, so like mine, yet so different. Their teeth were flat and white. Their eyes were round, and their arms only hung to their sides. It did not dangle down to their knees like mine. Some had the horns of my mother's, but others had rounded, hornless heads like my own. Also, they stood totally erect, walking on only two legs. I had a rambling, stooping gait, using my hands almost as much as my feet to pull myself forward. It was in their hands that I saw the greatest similarity to myself and the greatest difference. Their hands looked soft and delicate, like my mother's. Mine were gnarled and strong. Their fingers were long and thin and ended in short nails that seemed completely useless as weapons. Sharp black talons extended from the tips of my vicious-looking claws. In the end, though, they, as well as I, unlike any other creatures of the forest, could pick up sticks and use tools, unlike my wolf brethren I had lost so long ago. I decided I would learn to use tools like these strange creatures. I would learn to carry sticks and make homes like theirs. I thought that perhaps, if I could learn their magic that brings the sun down from the sky on dark nights, I would be more like them and less like a monster. Okay, so let's see. That's enough. We're gonna go ahead and leave off on that for now. Like I mentioned, I am going to keep reading those through each time. Beyond that, I don't know what else we'll do with these videos. I don't know. Maybe I'll start putting those at the end, since I did notice there was a huge "Is he part fawn?" The story hints at that so far, doesn't it? I would rather leave the story to that. I mean, really, it seems to be the same three people listening. If we want to, well, no, okay, actually, let's just go ahead and finish that one. There's not much left there. Let's just finish it. The three of you that stuck around to listen to it, it seems kind of unfair that I would stop. So we are going. We'll go ahead and finish it real quick. There's Act 3, Act 4. Yeah, there's only 2 acts left, anyways. And then we start on the bigger story. Hello, James Scody. You have to bear with, if you won't mind, you have to bear with us for just a moment while we finish the rest of this story. You can back up if you want to hear the beginning of it. But I'd rather not start next week in the middle of a story, anyways, and it seems unfair to those that did stick around to listen for me to stop. So, anyways, I set about my plan to become more like the people of the valley. I gathered sticks and held them between my rough, feral hands. I spent night after night rubbing sticks together. Day after day, night after night, I would rub. Oh, let me start again one more time. Sorry, guys. I set about my plan to become more like the people of the valley. I gathered sticks and held them between my rough, feral hands. I spent night after night rubbing sticks together, hoping to find the secret of their tiny son. I was patient at first. Day after day, night after night, I would rub sticks together. Until one night, after many tries, anger began to creep into my rubbing. As I rubbed the sticks together, gripping them with my forefinger and bracing the back against my thumb, my anger grew with every knit twist of the green wood twigs I had ripped from a tree earlier that day. My thoughts grew angrier and angrier. My yellow eyes and twisted face would never be accepted amongst the beautiful faces of the valley. Why did they fear me? It was not fair. I began turning the sticks faster and faster until my rage ignited the wood and manifested a bright orange flame. I feel like I didn't make that as apparent as I meant. What is going on here is his anger is what's caught burst into flames. So basically, his magic succeeded where knowledge failed. I gathered more sticks into the flame of my tiny sun. The flames of my sun grew and grew. As it grew, it began to consume the rough pile of propped up sticks I had made from my home. And yet, even as the flames consumed my home, my anger at the people of the valley grew. Even my sun was different than theirs. While their sun was warm and peaceful, my fire was even more monstrous than I. Nothing about me was like them. They were soft and gentle. I was a beast. I fled the scene of my creation and left the sun to eat as much of the forest as it would. The flames I had ignited threatened to warp my demonic soul and stay with me even as I ran. Hate is anger that stays, and now a burning anger seek to become my only companion. It was on this day that I first told myself I did not wish to be like the people of the valley. They were weak and terrified of my power. If I could be loved by none, then I would be feared by all. Okay. So this is the last act of this short story. There might be a little bit more about this character in the next book, but part of what this is doing is setting up to explain where the creatures from the first part of the novella, which will be next, came from. I continued to stalk the people of the valley, now not as my teachers, but as my prey. I was now becoming the monster they believed me to be. I had learned to imitate their noises. I learned of names, and I learned their individual names so that I could call to them from the woods at night to spread their fear. I would follow their hunting parties as they hunted. When one of them separated from the others, then I would follow close behind and fall on them from the branches above them. However, I always let them escape, to tell the others of the terrifying monster which stalked them from the trees. As I began my regular patrols around the village, I noticed an old woman who sometimes came amongst them, from whom I felt no fear. Over time, I began to watch her as she traveled to and from the village. I even began to imagine that she knew I watched her. Despite us having no interaction, she soon became the closest thing I had to a friend. I protected her from afar, and she did not run from my presence, most likely because she was unaware of it. One day, as I watched my new friend, as I hid in the high branch of a nearby tree with a good view of the trail, I noticed a second pair of eyes watching the old woman's movements. A striped forest panther was moving stealthily through the brush, knees bent, keeping its body close to the ground as it approached the old woman's path, its intent apparent in its hungry green eyes. I slipped from my perch high up in the tree branches, moving from tree to tree, and crossed the path well ahead of both the cat and the old woman. where neither would observe my crossing of the path. Then slowly, silently, I slithered my body amongst the leaves like a serpent until I reached a tree that stood in the way of the cat's approach. It made my way up into the branches in time for the cat not to notice my movements as I climbed into position in the tree's branches. My caution, however, had taken time, and the tree I picked was only a few yards from the trail, not well hidden from view as the old woman approached. When the cat arrived below me, I knew I had to act fast and silently if I wanted the old woman to remain fearless. I dropped down onto the cat's back immediately, wrapping one gnarled clawed hand over the cat's large toothy mouth, and at the same time bringing the sharp talon of my other claw across the cat's thickly furred throat, preventing its death screams and releasing its lifeblood in one quick motion. I dragged the cat's corpse behind the tree as quickly and quietly as I could. Still, the old woman had seemed to quicken her steps. I had to know if she had seen me. I had never come so close to the village in daylight hours before. Even now, despite the danger of my being seen, my greatest fear was to see my secret friend amongst the hated, fearful ones, as if she might become one of them simply by seeing her amongst them. At the same time, perhaps after having saved her from certain death, I had earned the right to approach closer to the village than I had before. Either way, I came closer that day than I had ever before without the darkness to hide me. It was then that I first saw her. A woman. A young, beautiful woman, nothing like the old woman I had followed, except for one crucial detail. She walked without fear. Her hair looked as if it tasted of honey. Her eyes, when I caught a glimpse of them, was the color of the pond where I had first seen my own reflection, but did not make me think of the terror or my monstrous face. I found myself drawn to her. I was unaware of any other emotions, so I told myself it was curiosity that made her so much more interesting than the old woman. My chest filled with a strange urge to touch this woman in a way I had never before imagined, to press my lips against her lips, to trace my hands across her flesh, but not to cause pain or kill. I wanted to give her pleasure with my demonic touch. This was a magic I instinctively feared, stronger than my gnarled hands, stronger even than the fire I had created that ate half of the forest before its hunger had waned. I knew if I did not flee, I would be trapped by her unknowing, fearless gaze. So I ran. I ran as if I was the one pursued by a monster. I still could not escape the spell the young woman's eyes had placed upon me. In the following days, my breath would halt in my lungs when I thought of those eyes, and an unexplained warmth crawled inside me like gentle worms. I resisted the power of her spell for 7 days before I returned to the village, seeking this newfound horror. I knew I had to return in the daylight hours to see the young woman. I had never seen her when I crept up to the village at night. As I stalked through the bushes on the outskirts of the village, trying to find a good vantage point to watch the center of town, my stomach began to growl from hunger. I had found myself unable to eat in the 7 days since I had first glimpsed the young woman's eyes. As I hunted for a glimpse of the young woman, a twig snapped behind me. My senses attuned to the noise, and I began to hear a heavy but bated breathing. Someone was hunting me. I said that wrong. And I began to hear a heavy but bated breathing. Someone was hunting me. I pressed my body against the nearby tree, willing my skin to take on the yellows and browns of the tree bark and various lichens on the tree's trunk as experience taught me to do. Soon my huntress appeared. It was the young woman. Now it was I who was afraid. The spell had once again taken hold, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps, as the gentle, warm worms once again began to wriggle about within my chest. Finally, it was hunger that allowed me to move. As she passed by, I pounced, but she turned at the sound of her power. But she turned at the sound. But she turned at the sound. I missed the comma. But she turned at the sound. Her powerful, mesmerizing eyes locked with mine. My mind faltered, and I became suddenly unsure of myself. If only my appearance had frightened her. If only she had uttered a scream, my claws would have not been stayed, and I would have been saved from the unbreakable chains that held me from that day forward. She did not. She smiled, "Hi," she said, stepping forward and placing her small, delicate hand into the dirty flesh and dried mud of my monstrous claw. My fate was sealed. I was hers forever. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Those of you that stuck around. Let's see. Like I said, we will be reading from that every time, at least a little bit. Next time we'll be starting the novella. I will post a link now for those of you that want to buy a copy of the book to read or to read along with me. And it's got, like I said, it'll have the short stories. Next time we'll start the novella. You're welcome, Just Me. Thank you for sticking around to listen to it. There's a link to the story there. We'll be starting the novella next time, and then obviously I'm not going to be able to read the whole novella in one broadcast like I did that short story, but they're all going to be connected. And then after that, there are poems and a couple essays. So there are other things for those of you who aren't into the stories. There's other things for you to listen to as we continue this live stream on Sundays. And like I said, it's not going to be the only thing we're going to talk about. Let's see some other updates. I mentioned in the last one about the idea of Guildland and technologies, and I said that there were some things I would have to prove to myself that's actually working before I would before I was willing to push forward with that. And apparently, it turns out scientists have already proved a bit of this for me. One of the things that I needed to know for sure that I have these memories from the integrating that other part of myself that was coming across the bridge. So basically, stuff ideas that I brought that part of me brought from the collective, and one of those is the idea that algae can produce electricity. And it's what I'm seeing in my mind in this memory are like these long tubes of water and algae with electrodes on the end, and they're being used basically like a solar panel. And so that was one of the things that I needed to prove. There are some aspects of it I need to prove because it's more than just plain electricity that we're wanting to generate with these things. But scientists have checked this one out, and it pans out because that was an experiment I read about very recently that they tried this. I mean, theirs is just a much smaller scale than what I'm seeing in my memory, but it's they made a small tube with algae in there with electrodes, and it's able to generate electricity, and not just when the sun is on it. So it's not exactly a solar panel. It's they're getting electricity from the algae's bioenergy because it works when the algae is in the sun and when it's not, because the algae is doing other processes of its living during that time, and that generates electricity as well. So that's been proven. I have some more things ready. We will be trying out the water horse very soon. That's not necessarily any magical components to that, but if you were listening in the last one, what the water horse is another one. It was simply a memory from this same idea of how a certain boat that I think I should make would work. And we'll see if it works as the memory pertains. I mean, that's not completely verifying the gnosis. If just neither one of those things completely verify the gnosis that I received on May 5th. Oh, you know what? I never turned on the lighting. Doesn't change much, does it? Except for that I'm looking into that light. Okay, we're turning that back off. That's unpleasant for me. And you guys have liked that before. Okay. So, anyways, we're going to make that boat, see if it floats the way that I suspect. And that's not full verification, but it's nice to see one of these memories pan out because that makes me trust more of them. But the one panned out with the electricity. It's already been done. we've got a type of algae that I'm putting into the crystal garden here. The last update that we discussed showed how this is connecting, but that isn't just water that I'm putting into the crystal garden to make the salt come down. It's also algae from the servitor minion tanks, which we've done in previous videos. I'm not going to try and lift my computer up over into there. That's another thing that some of you may have noticed is the film quality isn't as good today. My camera was my phone that I used for the live video last time isn't working very well today. It's like the battery's messing up. So I decided to just do it on here. Better to be able to go the whole hour that I said I was going to do with this film quality rather than be like, in the middle of something and all of a sudden the phone dies. So anyways, let's see. Questions and answers. Do you guys have any questions about any of my recent videos or anything that I've posted? Anything that you guys would like to talk about? Really just anything you guys want to ask me. That's part of what this live is for. If there's anything that you guys want to bring up. I've definitely determined that I'm not going to get demonetized for smoking while watching during the videos. So let me go ahead. Enjoy a bit of my pipe. Guild shop. We would like to have a guild shop. I do offer readings and stuff like that, and actually, I have a chat membership program here on not Facebook, YouTube, that I haven't been advertising very much yet. But now that we're starting to do the lives, it might be more useful. Oh, great. Talk to you. Bright blessings and interesting fate, just me. It was glad to have you here. See you next time. But anyways, can we be effective if we create our own spells? Absolutely. In my opinion, that is really the only way to have effective spells is by creating your own. I mean, if you were able to put in the emphasis on a pre-created spell, they can work. I'm not saying that type of stuff won't work completely. Completely won't work. But in order for a spell to be yours, it needs to be something that you did. In order for it to be connected to you, in order for it to be fully effective, it needs to be yours. In order for that to be the case, it needs to be done by you. And magic, quite frankly, as I've said previously, magic behaves like a many-faceted mirror that changes its reflection depending on whose image it is being cast. I think I said that wrong. Trying to quote myself and misquote. That's kind of funny. But anyways, magic changes to the individual. Each one of us has a slightly different interaction with magic and how it's going to work for us. So yes, absolutely. It is best to follow our instincts, go with what resonates with you personally, and follow through the development of the spell that way. That being said, there are certain formulas that need to be followed in order for a spell to be effective. I talk about this in my videos, but there is the four mechanics, which is the most important part, and that is intent, form, charge, and release. And this is easy to see in any sigil work because you have the idea of what you want the sigil to do, and so it's literal intent. You make a statement of intent, like I get money tomorrow, right? And that's your intent. And then you take I get money tomorrow. You take each letter, make that into a shape, and that is your form. You charge that form, and then how you charge that form is Well, there's many different ways to charge a sigil for sure. I often just charge them as I'm drawing, but imagining the chi flowing down into me. And then after you have made the sigil, you release it, and it goes out to perform its task and manifest your desire. And those, even though you're following a formula, you need to have your own shape. Oh, and 3D sigils. Awesome. Okay, so then you definitely don't need a big long lecture about how to do sigils. I think we got the basics of it. I think you understand the concept if you're working on 3D sigils already. Okay, so let's see other things to update. Like I talked about in the altar update, I have actually been communicating with Manatellu. I'm going to leave him where he is, but turn over that way real quick. That guy there. Talked about him in our latest video, just an altar update. Let's see. Any other questions? Oh, I hadn't fully finished, but I was finished what I was say about the guild shop. I do offer services. So I guess that's if that's what you mean by a guild shop. I do offer like divinatory services and stuff like that. If you find me on Facebook, someone asked in the comments of something else recently about how much I charge for spell work. I didn't get back to him on that. I suppose I should. I'm really bad about answering the comments under the videos. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that have made comments, but it's a sliding scale is the best way to put that. It's a sliding scale how much I charge for services based on need and ability to pay. But on average, I charge about $30 to $40 for spell work or divinatory, either way. If it's a spell that involves a lot of components, I do charge more for that. But I don't think that's necessarily what you're talking about with a guild shop. We also have merchandise through Redbubble. If you want, I could come up with a link. Oh, okay, that's fine. Have a good day, Silly Boomer. Thank you for joining us. Yes, we do. We have shirts and just a moment. Let me get up a link for that. There we are. I haven't been in here forever. Let's see. Where's our stuff? Dashboard. That's the wrong thing. View shop. But anyways, yes, we have t-shirts. That's where this came from. The tapestry with the guild with the guild star. Why is I am not very good at navigating this. We have stuff with the Aspharas sigil as well. I'm not very good at navigating this site. Let's see here. If I can remember how to do it. Let me just, well, I don't want to sit here and talk about this the whole time. So let me just get a link to the shop. I'll put it in the, I'm not very good at this kind of stuff, guys. I'm practically a Luddite when it comes to the internet, to be completely honest. It's kind of funny that I'm doing the stuff I do on the internet. View shop. There we are. That should have been fairly obvious. Okay, so here's the stuff with the Guild Star. No? You would think that would view this product design on 85 products. Yes, that's okay. Here we go. Maybe? Oh, want to give me a shareable link. Um, right. No, not add to cart. I want to share it. Why do you not give me a way to share my stuff? Okay, let's try this. See if this works. Hopefully that worked. Let's see. I'll click on it myself. Yep. So that's one of the T-shirts. You guys can navigate from there. Um. Oh, hey, I know what to do. I know what to do about that. We're not sitting there. I'm not sitting there worrying about that the whole time or advertising. Let me get back onto YouTube. I actually did a unboxing. I'll give you all the links are in there and a little video of me opening some of this stuff. So we'll just put unboxing. There we go. There's a link. You know how to get around in here. I'll have to watch your vids. I've only seen one. Yeah, I have. I've been putting up quite a few videos. It's been quite a while. I think I've been on here for like 2 years now, something like that. That I've been doing these videos. There's quite a few. Uh, on all kinds of stuff. I've also got. I have another book, the Sorcerer's Shadow, and that one's on magic. It's much more on topic for the channel. This live stuff is just me kind of letting my hair down and talking about my life and my creative side projects. I try to avoid politics on here, but you guys are everybody, all of you are probably going to get some rubber chicken stuff at some point. I I'm not gonna be able to help it. I avoided talking about it today. Now I'm thinking about it because there's a few things going on right now that are, in my opinion, antithetical to the idea of being a sorcery, like the bodily autonomy. That is, I mean, that's not politics to me. The idea of whether people have the right to what happens with their own body, that's beyond politics. So I don't really feel uncomfortable about talking about it because that's not politics. That's how it is. Sorcerer, as a sorcerer, I believe that's what we're here for, is the seeking free will. So it is definitely within the context of sorcery to say that we all should have the right to bodily autonomy. And equality is another thing that is inherent within magic. In order to understand sorcery, in order to be able to make the whole thing work properly, you have to be aware of the equality of all, with your own interconnectedness within the pattern, within the formation of reality, to be able to have effective magic. So equality is another thing that is just inherent within sorcery itself. We are all equal. Literally, everything that is aware is equal to all other things that are aware. We are all our piece within the pattern, and we all have the right to our own individual free will and autonomy. And like I said, that's not politics, as far as I'm concerned. That's basic facts of reality. So people like to take those things away from us, but that's why we learn magic. That's why we learn the things we do, to prevent people trying to take the basic facts of reality from us, right? That's why we learn magic, and so we have the power to keep our free will and keep our own autonomy. Um, I'm very tempted to sometime very soon discuss some of the methods we can use through magic to contain our bodily autonomy, maintain. Um, One thing I will say is that wormwood is a very powerful anti-parasitic because it will remove anything from the body that isn't actually part of it, and that includes fetuses. Also heard some interesting thing. That's not something I want to be spending a lot of time on because I don't have all the herbalism advice to be ensured that I'm giving the right advice, and that's why. Not because I see any reason not to do it. Something, I mean, if they demonetize me for saying that women have the right to bodily autonomy, they can demonetize me. But yeah, okay. I mean, there's a few things. None of these are completely guaranteed, and we will, maybe I will get into this. I think we should do a video on this. There's an abortion spell that I have used effectively before. No, I don't want to get into the morality of me doing an abortion spell, but the person was someone that wanted an abortion, and it worked. And it was simply using an egg, because the egg itself, an egg is something that is very easily attached to the fetus, and you can use that as a sample by holding the egg to the person's belly and drawing some of that energy from the fetus into the egg, and that creates the attachment. And this can actually be used for abortion type spells, as it was in this case, because I then took that egg, put it in a circle, which I used to summon the life force from the fetus, and then explained to the being who is getting ready to enter that fetus, because we're not in there immediately. You have to have a brain develop. You have to have that mental frequency going. You have to have something to attach to before you can actually take over a body. Yeah, it has to have a brain with the functioning mental functions. You think of it like a radio signal. Think of it as an antenna, and each one of our souls have a specific frequency that we broadcast on the mental plane. And when a brain is formed that has that same frequency, or it picks up that frequency, that's when we attach to the body. And so, and even then, it's not until we develop more that as the mind gets bigger, that we really get into our body, the body that we are operating in at that point. So, anyways, the point here is that I then use that to contact that fetus, the spirit that was planning to inhabit that fetus, and explain to them that this wasn't going to be a good fit. They were better off not coming there, and all of that. And then I broke the egg to destroy the fetus, and it worked. Okay, I'm not saying that's going to work every time. It's not a surefire technique, but it is one sorceress method that we can use. So you could, of course, add more layers to that, and we could use the alternatively. You can also use this idea of the egg making a connection to the fetus for things to enhance and bless an unborn child as well. So that's possible on both ends. Anyways, um, we're coming up on the hour here, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and get off. I enjoyed this very much. Those of you that stuck around for the full thing, thank you very much for being with us. And those of you that didn't, all of you that came in, thank you very much as well. I hope those of you that stuck around for the story enjoyed it. Um, we are going to keep doing those. I think maybe we'll do that towards the end, because it doesn't seem like everybody really wants to watch the video, wants to hear the story. And I suppose it is slightly self-indulgent on my part because it has nothing to do with sorcery exactly. There's some stuff there, like there's essays and stuff in there that are going to have to do with sorcery, but a lot of it's rather self-indulgent. But so I think we're going to keep it towards the end, but I'm still going to do it because, well, it's my channel and I want to. Okay, so yes, you have a nice evening as well, and we'll see you next time, huh? Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get off now. It's bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.